start recording. Okie dokie. So, where we left off, we had just converted all of our drawing stuff to use this one leaf routine, this draw entry, that everything else goes ahead and calls. So it simplifies things a bit. Now we've got some nice straight line code, rather than method calling. Like, the fewer methods you have, typically speaking, the better. The more understandable, the more factorable, more readable your code is. So the next thing we were going to look at was continuing down that path, and in fact I probably should have done this off stream, but maybe I could do it. Open containing folder. I'm just going to take a wee old copy of this guy, because I'm totally using version control like a professional developer on this, in case we mess it up. But what we were going to do is we were going to try and get rid of the different classes. We're just going to shove everything into one class, everything into single methods, and instead of doing virtual calls to figure out, are we drawing or are we updating, we're going to just use if statements. And so I don't know if that's going to necessarily lead us to a better place, but it's about the right time to just do that experiment and see if that is going to be a win for us. I suspect it will be, but we'll see. So this is where I pretty much hand it over to you and say, right, let's get rid of some virtual calls. Let's make these things not abstract.
Okay. All right. Well, right now, UI system. Well, it's abstract, so no one's actually using. Something used to be here, I suppose. But I don't need that anymore.
Good.
Yeah. So there's I'm thinking I might just take one of these and just move them in here.
Okay.
And then I don't know if that's too much, going two baby steps, but I could make all these methods virtual, for example, and make this one the update or something, and then
Yeah.
ride for the draw.
I mean, there's a very simple way of doing that, and you just grab this and hit delete.
Yep, that's actually not a bad idea. But I don't think. Wait a minute. I didn't think you could do. Oh, I see. You could delete. You could delete the signatures here.
Might as well.
Yeah. And then. Yeah, that's reasonable. And then I'll just make these virtual.
Okay.
Just to get it to build.
Yeah, that's a pretty reasonable way of doing it, actually.
That's a constructor. Although we might have. Oh no, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. Virtual. And then this guy is now UI system. This is base doesn't have parameter. Oh, it might have the right font. Oh, it's passed the font in. And
So you can already get a sense. It's like, well, it's already sort of set up that way. When it's leading us down this path because they're sort of sharing stuff in the constructor.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's sort of when we notice the pain of having two, because we have to pass multiple support objects around. And then this is, what is the complaint here? Cannot create an instance. Oh well, sure. Okay.
It's marked abstract, yeah.
Yeah. Kill that. Okay, that looks like all the splats. Let's see. I'm gonna just run it and see if we busted anything. Come on, computer. Oh, phew. That's a wee improvement there.
Yeah, I mean
Okay.
that was a good first
Um,
step. That was a
Okay, good. Now, now there were two. We have UI system and UI draw. Okay, so I guess now becomes a little harder. I'll take what's in UI system and move it into UI draw, I suppose. Well, UI draw is a little bit. It's got more stuff. It's doing stuff. This might be, like you said, I guess this is going to be like a bunch of if statements.
I am of the view that perhaps the best way to do this is exactly what we just did, which is just pop and fix the errors.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's do that. We'll do it that way. That sounds good. Okay, so we'll kill font because we already have it. Goodbye.
Okay.
Um,
Might I suggest that we
Yeah.
get rid
Very
of
good.
the other constructor and the other font,
Yeah, fair. Yeah, that sounds good.
just because it's one's calling the other, and
I gotta find them. Where's the constructor on this thing? I guess it would be near the bottom.
it was right there. There's
Yeah.
UI system, just F11 on. Oh, you can't do it now, but
I'm afraid of pressing F11 on this machine. I have no idea what the keyboard shortcuts are right now.
oh right.
Okay. Okay, why can't I see the constructor? I'm gonna break into the good old drop down here. UI says, yeah, so I have two of them. This is the old one. This is the one I don't want anymore. I don't know why it's there. Okay. And I'll spelunk back up here.
So I have a feeling that
Draw.
once we've done this, we'll have to go through and sort of, just do a tidy pass as well, just to make things pretty. But
Yeah. Constructor. And there's no base anymore. I think. Okay, so at least I have a constructor. Okay, so now we have basically splats on every method that has two pathways, right? We've got the draw path and the update path. I guess, were you planning on passing the boolness of it in the method, or were you going to do it in the constructor of the system?
the boolness of it in a method. Oh right,
Like
I
label,
understand.
Bool, draw, or update it, or whatever it is.
So okay, so let's think about what we need. We need a way to call it in a read-only way. We need,
That's right.
and we can do that. So let's come back out and out here and sort of write the usage code to begin with.
Right.
So what do we need? We only really need one instance of this thing.
That's right.
So let's start with that.
Okay, well, we'll delete draw. Okay, or keep draw. Yeah, it makes sense because it's the widest one. Oh, okay, yeah. We'll do that. Then where did that?
Might
So
just,
kill.
yeah, we'll call it
I'm gonna call it just UI.
UI
I guess?
or UI system. The only thought is we're like passing around like UI as a local as well within the same scope, which sort of I'm not
Yeah, UI
thrilled
system
about
is
it.
better.
So I'm gonna stick with UI system for now.
Alright, so that gets built there. Get rid of this, this. This. Oh, wait a minute. What UI is this UI? Oh, that's a draw one, but we don't need that anymore because we already have an instance of it, right?
Oh
This
right.
isn't gonna be.
Oh,
is this a
you
threading
you still got a
problem,
to
or
do.
no?
You still got a to do garbage thing there.
I think we said hang it because it wasn't a problem anymore. I think.
And oh yeah, so I actually went and cleared that out, but yeah, you don't need it anymore. Suffice to say.
Right. But I'm just thinking like we don't need to draw like we don't need to draw another. I'm just looking at this code and I'm like, we don't need any of the. Just need one instance, right?
Yes. Now, of course, within that instance, you know, for fun serialization issues that we're going to get to, I think, next time, we'll have to. I think we'll have to bring in the serializers just so we're doing that sort of automated testing.
Yeah.
That we talked about last time. I think we were on stream when we talked about that.
Yeah, there's that quote, right? I mean, those who choose to add multiplayer at the end of the game have chosen to add it in the middle. It's probably good.
Yes, that's quite apt. So,
okay.
The thought here. So we'll ignore the multiplayer, you know, the synchronization thing for now. But later on, we might be going through UI system and splitting out some of the data and marking it as, you know, do we have the draw list cached or not? And then so it'll look something like if. Okay, yeah. So actually, now that I think about it, yeah. If UI system dot has up to date draw list, UI system dot draw, sorry, if not UI system, then it would be main menu UI system, and then read only equals true, or something else to mark that this particular update. So it could be more like, in fact, it would probably be something like UI system dot begin, read only equals true. So now you see where this is going, and then you just call main menu and UI system dot end, and then it would be UI system dot output draw list. So, and then that way, we're now doing it in the imGUI way, like the dear imGUI way, which is to build the draw list in the update, and then only output it at this stage.
Okay, can you walk me through, like, I mean, you're making a check in the draw call, and then if our draw list isn't up to date, then we're making a pass to pull out the draw list. So we're we're gonna build our draw list right before we draw, like in the tick itself. I guess that makes sense.
So yeah, so the idea is, like, okay, so why is, oh no, all right, I'm just like, I've got a lot of errors there. So all of these drawing things are calling draw entry, and whenever they call draw entry, they where's draw entry? They do some stuff and start filling up a sprite batch, which, as we talked about, is like a list of stuff to draw.
Right.
And so that's the way this works, because of sprite batch, is actually kind of annoying, but we'll carry on for now.
Yeah, I guess because we have to maintain two lists, like it maintains its own list, and then we have to maintain ours. So we have to call the sprite batch for ours.
So what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to pretend sprite batch is just a really janky list and write the code that manages that fact. But later on, I think we will actually go ahead and replace sprite batch, because that's like, it's kind of reached that point where that's sort of necessary. I mean, the alternate thing we could do is start building up a list to draw that is, you know, itself like commands that we then send to sprite batch, which becomes a little bit messy, but it's not impossible. Yeah. So yeah, so the point is, like, so this is going to happen in the update, is draw entry will get called, and so we end up with this sprite batch, and then this sprite batch.end call, which actually does all the drawing, like spits everything out to screen that's come out, that's listed. We'll move this end call into output draw list. So we're treating sprite batch as a list of vertexes rather than as a sprite batch. And then later on we'll come back and we'll be like, right, sprite batch is garbage. We'll replace that with a thing that is not a list of vertices. Sorry, a thing that is a list of vertices. And so basically the idea is it's like we'll always use the, we'll get rid of that because it's basically moved into here. And we'll always use the updates version of the thing that does the menu processing.
Right.
Unless it's not up to date, in which case we will forcibly update it and make sure that it's marked read-only.
Oh, I get it. That's because we're never guaranteed to get these in the same order. So this is just accounting for and like draw before update, right, in the loop.
Exactly. So this is almost a little bit of a hack. Like it's a little bit hacky, but it's like this is the way the alternate system works. And as I was saying, we might find it's like, oh well, in this case we have to, write our own sprite batch and have this hacky like sort of read-only mode thing. Like we're now sort of modal here rather than being modal on whatever this is. So now, it doesn't really change, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty much the same.
Although the from the person using its point of view, they have to write a bit more code here because they have to recall their whatever their builder method is for their own UI, and they have to call it in two places now, which kind of sucks.
No, because keep in mind that previously, like, the code was that. So we've actually occasionally it doesn't get called.
Oh, true. I guess that's still, yeah. I don't know. It just seems like a smell. From a doc's point of view, you have to write the method twice.
So you can imagine, okay, so if we are trying to be read-only in the draw method, which, for network reasons we have to be, in the previous code, it's like, all right, well, it would look something like if UI is UI draw. If UI is UI update, do something that mutates state.
Right.
Whereas now it's just like UI dot, not UI dot is read only. So it's equivalent for the user code. In fact, I'd argue that this is actually a little nicer. Only a little. Like, it's basically the same.
Yeah. Is there? Eventually we could get rid of that, right? We like with an update context type of thing that knows it's on the network or not, and then just bypasses that. It's sort of like. Rule.
That looks like
Oh, I guess that's the same.
It looks exactly the same. So
Just the same.
yeah, in all cases you have to do this. If you want to do like something every frame that might mutate state, you have to check whether you actually are allowed to in some way, because because of the conceit of the way this works, and this gets called by both draw and update.
Yeah.
So you in cases where you want to know which is which, you have to check.
Yeah. The alternative is, River City UI doesn't do that, and so the alternative is much worse. You end up with two very large lists of instructions, and then the coordination between them, and which one is doing what at what time. That seems a lot cleaner because there's no state anymore. Obviously, it's not retaining anything. It's immediate, so you just make the decision right there in the code. So that's the beauty of it.
Like, the next step of alternative is, if we have that, what was it? Do something that mutates state. We could do that and draw, and so get rid of that in that version, and then
keep
that,
everything else. Yeah.
and it looks like this, and oh god, no, like like that's the worst of all worlds, because now the client code, like the sort of code, the whole code that we want to make, you know, nice and easy to update and understand and stuff, and be very straight line and simple, has to be duplicated and slightly different in different cases. So that's not going to happen.
Right. Agree.
So I think basically we need a boolean that says read only, and a boolean that says have you update the draw list.
Right. So we want to put the read only on the.
So I mean that is that is an option, but then you have to pass is read only to every single call. For example, like checkbox and slider. So not every single call, but a lot of them, and then you have to remember which one needs it and so on. So that's a bit of a disaster.
Better to put it on the system.
Yeah.
Which is basically update context.
Yeah, it is.
So
It is.
It
is exactly that.
Double duty. It's update context that actually knows about drawing. It's slightly better. Oh, I guess no, it's the same because we still had that capability, just didn't use it.
Well, sorry. I seem to recall. Actually, no, it didn't. I was just thinking, didn't the update context gather some drawing information as it went? But I don't think it did.
No, it was pretty pure.
Yeah, we had like a draw context or something.
We also had a read-only update context, which got instanced and thrown into the draws. So the draws had like their own context.
Yeah.
And then they could refer to the read-only version of it through an interface that would throw an exception if you tried to do otherwise.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a list of blessed methods that you could. Yeah, so kind of like what you were talking about, and rather than duplicating, we made an interface of all the safe methods.
Yes.
Or safe members, and then basically we threw on the non-safe ones, and then instanced the read-only version through that. So it was kind of like charades, I guess, but some kind of like sleight of hand to make it seem like it was the same. But yeah, this is a lot cleaner. Okay, so I don't know if we want to do that now, or do you want to fix the methods first? But...
Oh, I mean, I think we go from like in order to fix methods, we're going to need to know if we're read only, and also because of the conceit of like, I don't know, the fact that sprite batch is garbage, we're going to have some variables for that as well. But certainly, yeah, let's pass read only to begin, and then we need public draw list ready. I'm just going to call it draw list ready. It's a bit nicer. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So let's go through this. Now that we've got sort of the calls set up, let's go through our UI system just top to bottom and fix it.
Okay.
So once we fix that duplication, all those squiggles in main menu should go away.
Right. All right. Well, I'm just gonna find a label.
Oh, is it not going to squiggle for? Oh, it's not going to squiggle for us over here. That's unfortunate. So I was thinking it would give us some nice squiggles. Yeah. So are you just like lining up the methods with each other? That seems wise. So I'm gonna do the same. So begin with begin. I'll put the drawing ones on the bottom. End with end. Label with label. Item with item. Checkbox and slider. Okay, so we basically got like 6 methods, I think, begin, end, label, item, checkbox, slider, that are duplicates. So what we can do now So while you're doing that, I'm just going to get rid of the virtual and the override.
Sliders is way off. Checkbox, slider. Right.
Okay.
Alright, so yeah, so we got, where do you want to start? Begin?
Well, let's just start with begin. Let's have a look at begin and see what it does.
Begin at the beginning? Where is begin? Did I lose begin? What happened to my begin?
I don't know. Check the scrolly box.
Oh,
There we go. 2 begins.
I don't have to. Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, okay. Alright, this is the one, the new one, and this is the old one.
Okay.
Um,
So let's. I mean, all right. So we're taking bool is bool. I'm gonna call it read only. Just. Just stylistically.
not sure we need this update read only anymore, but
I don't think we do. So let's get rid of it. Because I mean, we're just looking at our own status. In any case, the update version, obviously, if you look at end as well, you know, one of them did a begin end check and one of them didn't. I think we're all, you know, clever enough programmers to not make a mismatch there. So I'm just going to get rid of it for now.
also the sprite batch will do it for us until you get rid of it.
Oh yeah, well.
Well, sort of. Yeah.
So now, while we're in begin and end, so this version of this version of begin
I think it kind of looks safe, right? Because we're using sprite batch to build the list anyway. So.
yeah. So did I just, oh, okay. So and then I'm just going to take this end and stick this here. But that being said, we actually don't want this sprite batch end here. So
No.
because what you have to think of end as is actually output to screen. So let's create that method now. What do we call it? Output draw list.
So. Yeah.
And that's, for the time being, that's as simple as sp.end, and we're done.
Basically, it's the only method that survived, being a separate method.
Now, before we look at label and all this stuff, let's think about how this is going to work, because we are now in the position that we can have multiple begin end before we call output draw loop, because yeah, as you know, we can call update multiple times, and of course we have to, you know, check whether the draw list is ready or not, so we have to actually track this as well.
Right.
So let's make that code work. So we're trying to make sprite batch do the right thing. So have you got thoughts on how we're going to do that? Because basically sprite batch has to have its begin and its end match,
Yeah,
despite the insanity stuff that we're doing right now.
I mean, are we worried about the number of batches that we're building at this point, or not really?
No. So we are, put it this way, we are going to have to create garbage to make this work with sprite batch for the time being.
All right. So all kinds of batches. potentially, like multiple begin and ends.
Basically, you know, we'd like to be able to say sb.clear here, but that obviously is not a method that exists, so we'll have to do something else.
Yeah, well, we'll just have to only. I mean, we can do it lazy and just say if.
I wouldn't be completely I wouldn't object completely to just diving into its internals and just yanking out whatever the where is it? It should be a number of sprites. Just setting that to 0. Like that's an option if we wanted sb.clear. But then also we have to, you know, sort out the begin end
Wait,
thing and so on.
I'm a little confused because I mean we can call our begin multiple times. Clearing the list would be destructive, wouldn't it? If we had multiple. Are we guaranteed we're only gonna get one begin and end, like for like pass of the main menu? Like I mean internally. I guess we are because
yeah.
we're using our own begin and end.
So what we've guaranteed with this piece of code is that before output draw list, we're always going to call begin, fill it up, and call end. And this boolean that we've created here basically says we've done it once, we'll do it again. So first of all, I guess the implication is that
there's no partial draw list ready. We didn't try to start drawing making the draw list and then we didn't finish it for some reason.
Yeah, so the thing that we're trying to solve for is that someone, you know, ends up like with this set of calls for whatever reason and then gets to here. And so without ever calling spritebatch.end, so we'll have to, you know, clear it out. Otherwise, you know, you can't call spritebatch begin, spritebatch begin, spritebatch begin, spritebatch begin, or it will complain.
Well, in that case, we were calling end, end, end.
Yes, like, but keep in mind, yeah, like this is now.
Oh, right, it's the only end. That's right, because UI system doesn't end it.
So this is the problem we're trying to solve.
Right. Well, I mean, you just do the thing where you say like we just keep our own flag that says that we've opened we've begun, and just don't do it again. Like just keep feeding the same batch.
Yep. I mean, we can't like if we don't call begin again, we end up filling up the batch multiple times. So we actually do have to clear the sprite batch somehow here if we know it's already been filled. So like this one.
All right.
You know, like.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Well, screw it then. Type of sprite batch.
We're gonna go this way. All right. I'm cool. I'm down with that. I said I would allow it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd be interested. I guess I'm mentally
Get field
foggy today. I'm not sure. All right. What an alternative would be other than like just tracking it here, like.
Well, okay. Let me give you the alternative just to speed up things, and that is spritebatch dot dispose.
Oh, gross.
Equals new.
That's what you meant by. Oh, you actually meant garbage. You didn't mean poor taste. Garbage.
I wonder if I can do this graphics device. I wonder if I can do that on a dispose spritebatch. Guess we'll find out.
Probably not. You could just null it out.
It's a read-only field.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's not.
Not anymore. Alright.
Oh, no, you know what? We can't do that.
Oh, because it's not in a knit. we need a pool.
No, yeah.
We need a pool
actually, no, we can do it because we own the sprite batch. In fact, you know what we can do? Like, this is no longer... This is our private sprite batch. We're not going to use the external one. That's solved. This can go away, and sprite batch equals new sprite batch. Graphics device. No, white pixel. Graphics device.
Nice.
So this is our solution now, and to do replace this crap.
Sounds like we're making it inevitable that Sprite Patch is going away.
So I never liked Sprite Batch.
You don't say. Could barely tell. Okay, I'm gonna lose in my plot here. Okay, what was this? I think I got it. I think I got rid of.
So
I'm supposed to. Begin.
I haven't been watching your screen, so I'm gonna just trust you. So so there is one. Obviously, we don't want to do this every single time, because most of the time we'll just be falling through to Sprite Batch. But we'll get to that.
Oh, hold on, I want to show you this cool trick I've seen other people do that horrifying. But there. Don't call that. Do this.
No, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
Ah, my brain.
Thought you'd enjoy that one. Oh yeah, right.
And so if you're watching along on YouTube, please don't ever do that.
No, it's clever.
Oh boy.
Okay,
All right.
so good enough, I guess.
So we need to track. Yes.
Although, I mean, if we've already jankified this, it's like the private method is actually better.
It is actually better. However, let's stick with the jank version for now.
Right.
And we'll
We'll end up replacing Sprite Batch.
replace this jank. There's nothing that a to-do can't solve.
Other than it never ever gets done.
Oh boy. So, all right. So the next thing we have to do is we have to track draw list ready.
Right. Draw list ready probably gets set in end, perhaps.
I'd say we could set it in the end.
No early outs in it, right? Oh, there is.
Oh, well, there's two things we could do. First of all, we can actually set it in begin. Like, we can, like, draw list ready becomes, has the sprite batch been begun? Because then the next thing we have to do is at the end, we have to actually set it to false. Because at this point, like, another annoying thing about sprite batch is you can't draw the same list multiple times. So you can imagine a situation where, you know, we're not calling update, but we keep calling draw because we need to like skip a frame or something. And so we want to draw the same list multiple times. So, you know, we don't want to like update it. Sorry, we don't want to rebuild it if it's just going to be the same result. So, yet another reason to get rid of sprite batch.
Oh, so you can't. So in that scenario, if you want to do like frame skipping, then you end up having to just rebuild the same thing over and over again.
Exactly.
Huh.
So
is there a good example of when you'd want to do that? Like, I mean, I think I can't really contrive a reason why we would want to purposely send the last frame to the buffer again.
Okay. So for the simple reason that basically, like if you imagine our debug tools, like if you just hit pause on the simulation, then you're not calling update, so the menu is not going to change. So
true. Although, is there other opportunities, like can you like build some kind of signature for like your state? I guess you could say, oh well, the state hasn't changed, so I know for a fact that nothing will change on the screen. Is that worth doing? Is that like, or just a bad optimization?
Well, the way you would determine if anything has changed is to run the update. Like, otherwise, the amount of stuff you'd have to track is equivalent to rewriting like a specialized version of main menu. It's like, do we need to update? Well, you know, has the person hit enter on any items? Has any other, you know, like,
true,
has this
if we had
value changed?
We have the serializer, we know if there's been a snapshot change, I guess, no, between the I mean, we use the hashables, hashing
The-
stream and all that.
Oh yes, like so we could do that, and that's kind of what you kind of get that automatically, running it through like the rollback system, but like if you were just doing that naively, you've got no idea like even just the frame clock
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like,
It's gonna-
game time kind of kills you.
change the hash. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Never mind.
so you can't do it across the whole state. But if you had a specialized subset of the state that was just the menus, you could maybe do it, but it's risky.
And it sounds like probably not overly worth it.
Even this is somewhat risky. Like you can imagine, like we are blocking ourselves from doing, say, a menu item that changes on the display, and like it is sort of dataless, like a dataless menu item that keeps updating even while the simulation is paused, for whatever reason. So we are cutting off some options when we do this as well by not always calling it indraw. So like that's one of the things we're going to have to think about, when we decide whether we go with this thing or the thing that we were building before. So where were we at? We've done draw list ready, and we've checked whether we've done the begin end pair for sprite batch. So the last thing to do here
You don't
is
want this to be false, right?
yes. So because unfortunately after we've done the end, it clears out the list. So it's one of those things. It's like you've designed an API that does two things based on one call, and so it's not a great idea. So there's one last thing we can do, and that is if draw list ready, do this. So because we only want to do our manual clear, if we had actually filled it up. If it's empty, if we hadn't done
right.
begin,
Yeah.
then we're fine.
Right. Otherwise, yeah, we'd just be making garbage every tick for no reason. Gotcha. Okay, cool. And still worried about this focus thing, but I guess it doesn't matter. Yeah, right, because, yeah, okay, I get, that makes sense. Okay, output draw, okay, label.
Yeah, if items count, it's not equal 0. Focus index. Yeah. So what we could do. I mean,
It's
yeah,
okay,
It's
'cause,
okay.
I mean, this is just a tick. Like, this is all update, so I guess that's fine.
We'll leave it for now. I mean, it might the fact that that's returning so early might bite us in the ass, but we're professional programmers. So let's move on to label, because I think we've pretty much got this now. And so label's the
Yeah.
easiest of these to deal with.
I imagine we probably just want to do that. Actually, no, that probably doesn't matter.
I can't
Does
remember
it matter?
what label
I
so
don't-
far gets used for.
Label so far is because of the dichotomy between draw items and visited things that we've drawn, like things that you can click on versus things that we have to sort out the labels which are inactive from the items which are active.
Yes. Oh yes. So it's it's a thing
Filling
for
an index.
this is for menus, but it never gets used in draw entry, so it can be in any order in any case.
Yeah. Right. All right. Okay. Item. So item has a result when it's going through the update, but not when it's going through the draw.
So this is where it gets interesting, because this is basically how we want to implement our is read only system. So basically, are we doing it? Are we calling main menu in a way that we want these items to activate? Do we want this to enter into this part of the loop, and we only want that to happen in an update that we are mutable, so we're not read-only. So that's what that turns into, like this result versus false. Okay, so we've caused a bit of a problem here because we need draw entry now that we're building the draw list all the time. So every time we run through, whether it's read-only or not, we need to fill out the draw list.
Right. Oh.
So hopefully the reasoning for that makes sense.
Okay, but this is, I think internal get ID is mutator, isn't it?
Internal get ID should not mutate anything except
Next
other
ID hash.
things. So yes, it is a mutator, but it mutates internal state. So as we know, some of this is some of the contents of UI system will be networked and some of them will not. So the focus will be networked. The actual processing, like the internal processing, won't be networked.
Okay. But either way, okay. Sorry.
Basically, because we always know it's going to get called, begin, menu, end.
Right.
And so it's going to build more or less the same system every time. However,
so while it's technically true,
it is the case that it is, calling it twice in the one method, that is going to cause a problem. So we do actually have to do this.
That's what that's what was.
Oh, is that what you meant? That's okay. Yeah.
Oh no, I was getting there. I was just too dialectical. You beat me to it. But yeah, I felt like, but I don't. I'd say problem is I don't actually know why. Because as long as updated. Oh no, I get it. Because they have to follow. They don't follow the same path. So in one case, they were during the mutation, they would have been called twice. So we had two different hashes, and in the draw, we only would have got one, which meant it wouldn't have matched. Because we're actually using the next ID. We're mixing that in with the hash, so it's always going to be different.
Yes.
So then we would have desynced pretty much immediately at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is the part where I basically get stupid for most of it because it's always hard to think about that split. At least for me mentally, it's not. It doesn't come naturally. Just eyeball this and be like, oh, I know which one of these won't be mutated and which ones will. Like, the fact that you know that the next ID hash is going to be internal for the purposes of networking.
Yes.
You know that because because it's not efficient to send two ulongs over the network, and because it's a hash, its whole purpose is to produce the same result on two disconnected ends in order to compare their equality, right?
Yes, and so like the actual hashes never get exposed to the outside world, and they're always built up as these methods get called. And the whole idea of the external world is outside of UI system is that it is the same data going in and the same methods getting called. So whenever you build up a hash, it's always going to be the same, and so we don't have to send it across the network at all because it gets built every time and it's the same every time.
Right, and the murmur hash, just to be clear, the murmur hash that we chose is going to produce the same result on like a different endian system.
It should. I don't know how much we checked it for endian issues. But I think, yeah, looking at it now, yeah, it looks endian safe to me. But I obviously spent 3 seconds looking at it, so I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure it's endian safe.
But we would find out if we ever.
We would very quickly find out if it was not. Not to mention that.
.NET
like it's
implementation differences as well.
Yeah, I think we're safe for that. But I not to mention the fact that the likelihood of this running on machines with big endian is pretty low. So.
Oh, it's right. I forgot all about that. The fact that the Intel is on Mac now.
Yeah, pretty much everyone's little endian at this point.
Okay. Cool.
So let's try and simplify this code a little bit.
Okay.
Because I think we can. I think we can make things a bit nicer. So, for example, we can take result out and then return result.
Oh, sure.
And just not mutate it. That way we can take draw entry out as well. Now, this gives rise to something very interesting. And that is the previous way we were structuring this code. If we look at draw entry, does it walk the list? It does not walk the list. It's looking at the focus, so we should be fine there. But I'm just sort of thinking out loud as whether we are. Like, for example, we're looking at label counts here, but we haven't finished building up the label counts list. So we might run into problems there in the future. But I think for now we can leave it as is and worry about that later. Certainly because of the way we've changed this, we now have access to the layout when we would be figuring out the hover as we go through. So that's also a consideration. So it may be the case that this hovering stuff has to change in some way, but we'll figure that out
Probably next time.
Next time, I think. So let's just finish up the things, and let's see if it breaks the hovering, we'll just comment that out for now.
Woo.
So the thing here is that working is not the same thing as is read only is not the same thing as drawing. So what we've actually got here is a case where so it looks like we can't just call item now, which is an interesting thing. And hopefully you can see why.
Well, we're going to call draw entry twice, and we're going to get, in the case of drawing, we're going to end up with, again, double hash mutation. So, yeah.
So
we could pass the ID to item, but that would end up creating another method, and we're trying to keep it a straight line. So.
Well, I mean, what we could do, and I think what we should do, is grab our item and basically, because we're using item in such a way. Anyway, let's expand out the code with copy paste, and we'll have two very similar methods, and then we need to make sure that we go back and extract out the common components into methods that everyone can call, just like we have draw entry. Like, it might be the case that we the focus handling, the label counts, the items.add, that this section might need to be its own method. So on the basis that we want to keep this fairly similar, I'm going to say that what we should do is not do it in here. We should actually go if result just because this block of code, it looks like this is a block of code that we will want to
hoist out. Okay.
Hoist out, and then
Interesting. Oh, because we called item before, so we do need to duplicate the label counts. But how did I miss that last time? Copy pasted it.
I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to.
Oh, just that in our expanded out checkbox. Oh, never mind. No, never mind. I just got Google Eyes. I'm good now.
So, one thing here. So over here, when we call into draw entry, we need to pass in this. We need to pass in this different version of the drawing string. Now, working is internal. We don't need to worry about that as far as the network goes. But what you've done by wrapping it in is read only. Basically, I can't think of a case where you would want to only do something if it is read only. Because keep in mind, because it's not are we drawing, it's are we doing are we doing a fake update? Are we doing a read only update?
Right. We all right. I see what you're saying.
Because we always draw.
Yeah, we're always building the list no matter what. I get you. What about this part though? Is the order doesn't matter? I guess it doesn't, because all we're doing is returning the result back to the checkbox. But we're mutating though.
Yeah, we may as. I mean, if by doing it here we're a frame late, so we may as well be, if it changes, let's keep it on that frame.
Well, my question is, isn't that not going to mutate during a read only?
No, because result is always false unless it's writable.
Unless it's not read only, of course.
And so the thing here is that the working buffer and the drawing buffer, none of those are networked. So these, we can shove whatever we like into here.
Yep.
So
I guess the reason I put that there was just because of that, oh look, all the updates are together. And
yeah.
But I get it.
So the only reason I haven't done it that way is just because this block of code is now identical to this block of code.
Yeah.
So we should be able to extract it in a moment. This one's a little more different. So let's finish up with slider and see what we broke.
Well, I'm gonna take your advice from the last time, because we know that everything up here is this is the so-called draw code, right?
I mean, that was the update code.
Right. Okay. So this has to run always.
Exactly.
So we'll put that there. And 0 will just be what we initialize. We already do that, so goodbye method. And then and then first pass, I guess, is, well, all of this is checking input and manipulating values. So if not, I may have just tuned out your advice you just told me, perhaps. Let me think. See, while this code might be identical, it's pretty particular about the input.
Yes. So it depends how many different, like, we have to figure out, do we want anything more than item checkbox slider? Like, if there's only 2 of them, then, you know, no one cares. This one, slider's obviously got different inputs, so we have to have different code for that, which has always been the case.
I feel we'll probably have drop downs.
Oh yeah. So
and scroll boxes. And
so I can't see any major issues with this code at the moment. The item store add ID. Oh yeah.
You added these into the non-mutation scope. Is that because?
Yeah. So that's the last thing I'm looking at. I'm like, should those in fact be? Because the list of items and the list of labels gets used for drawing, and so we need those available, I believe.
Yeah.
Like none of that affects the outside world. So let's just try it with them outside.
Are we like clearing the list like twice per tick at this point?
I don't follow you.
Well, when we update, we call items, and so we call items dot clear, and we clear it again when we draw. I don't know. I guess it's okay.
Well, no, because we don't touch it when we draw. Ideally, when we draw, we don't do anything other than just spit out the drawing.
Right. I keep screwing this up mentally. Yeah. Exactly. Unless we're in that silly state where we never ended up calling begin, we have to force ourselves to in the draw loop. But
yeah. So that's just slapping in like a fake update. So let's just fix up the last couple of compile errors that I have here.
Oh yeah.
I think we might be done. No method for begin takes 0 arguments. What is that? That is.
I'm not done.
Oh. Let's call that true.
I don't have a hover.
Oh, read only colon true. Named parameters.
What should I do here?
We can just change that to UI now. The only reason was that.
UI.
Or UI system.
But, wait, I'm desplatted. This is probably gonna explode.
Yeah, I would not surprise me in the slightest.
Boom.
Bang. Argument out of range in the hover thing. So hovering we have broken. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the hover system being broken for now.
We kind of shoved it in there anyway.
Well, we were gonna. Part of the reason for making this change is that now we have access to the layout information in the same place we're doing the update. Whether that's actually nice or not, we still need to make a decision there. So we've lost our hover, but does everything else work? Why have you stopped? I don't understand why there was a breakpoint in there. I didn't ask you to break.
Might have a ghost one. You might want to just delete them
Debug Windows breakpoints. That's
Classic
very odd.
The classic ghost breakpoint.
I'll just switch it back to debug. It's probably, I'm in release build. Let's see what debug build says. I've got a I've got a debugger break in there. I don't know why that is in there still, but it's gone now. So, you know, we've actually done a pretty good job of keeping this working. So the thing to ponder on now that that we're going to sort of leave on is, have we improved things? Like, is this actually going to be better than our other way of doing things? Like having fewer methods. They seem to be a little bit simpler, but you do then have to do that sort of mental gymnastics of we're both doing an update and a draw at the same time. And when we're doing a draw, unlike before, we haven't finished constructing the entire draw list. When we're drawing an item, we're halfway through building the UI when we're calling draw, which I mean was kind of was basically the case before, but we still had access to, for example, the entire list of label counts, whereas obviously this is not quite working anymore. But that's fine. If that's the only thing that broke, that's excellent.
I think it looks like that's the only thing that broke, that we have fewer items than we in the list because we're halfway.
So one thing we should do is just clean up like the ordering, but seeing as we're over time, I think I'll save that for next time as a bit of a warm-up. But one thing we can do is just so if recall, we had 880 or so lines last time in UI system. Sorry, we were up to 880 lines at the end. We have only saved about 40 lines of code, but you know, that's.
And I gained lines of code. I'm at 922, but I haven't done the spaces, I guess.
I've got more spaces here too. So yeah, I was thinking we'd gain a few more, but yeah, about 40-50 lines zapped. That's not too shabby. The people on YouTube won't be able to see the line count at the bottom of the screen, so do that. I did that last time, and obviously that will be off.
Oh, did you move value 128 yet?
Where is value 128? It is sitting in here. Did you move it to a separate file?
No, but I was thinking about it.
I mean, it's an option. We'll leave. I'll leave it for. Yours is sitting out in the namespace. Mine's
way out there.
Yeah, like the temptation is to take all of the hashing stuff and put it into the helper section. Like,
into the section.
Like into a
I made
different.
another file. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, no, into a probably
Static class.
put the murmur hash in a static class and put the value 128 on its own, which is perfectly fine. I won't do that now, but I will probably do that next time. So so I'm not going to try and answer the question now as whether we've done good by doing this.
Guess we'll find out when we implement more features and try to do layouts.
Yeah, I think we might have. I think this might be better, but we will see. I think we'll probably be in a better position to answer that when we go to do the cleanup. So let's finish up here for now. So thanks for watching, everyone, and see you next time.